Get your films on with the Blurs.
Once an idea has taken hold of the brain, it's almost impossible to eradicate.
Unpacking movies has never been more spot on, woke, fire, and just plain lit.
They are lit all the time.
So if you're unsure whether or not to plop down some cash for a film, check out the Blurs.
When a man with a 45 meets a man with a rifle, the man with a pistol is a dead man.
Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolyte.
You really only need to hang mean bastards. But mean bastards, you need to hang.
Don't say you weren't warned.
Ridiculous.
Here's Brandon and Jeff.
Hello, welcome to a special episode. We'll call this an in-betweener for the Film Blurs. I'm Brandon.
I'm Jeff.
We're talking about an indie.
Yeah,
what's the name of the indie, Jeff?
The name of the name of the indie is Young King. The Young King. Is it the Young King or Young King?
Just Young King. They kept it clean.
Yeah. It's a small independent film about a man who comes back from the Iraq War and has to deal with reacclimating to civilian life,
right?
And everything that entails,
right?
It is nothing you haven't seen before, but for the explicit, important distinction that it's about a black man, right, coming back.
Here's the thing that I like about this movie and why I think it is an important movie y'all should see. It touches on black mental health, which is something that's still taboo in the black community. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't take mental health seriously, sadly. Yeah. And this movie does. It takes black people's mental health seriously, and it shows just how, I mean, it as much as it is his fault for not getting it under control, but the system fails him, and so does his family, right? Yeah. And his family does too, because they're not really like pushing him to the right things. They're pushing him into a relationship. They're pushing him into getting a job, but they're not pushing him to get the help that he needs or really supporting him. Because like, yo, listen, there's a part in the movie that really stuck out to me, and I get why his brother was pissed. He has every right to be pissed, but he also has to understand his brother's fucked up in the head and he needs help. So when he comes over to him and apologize, he's like, I respect that, but I'm gonna need you to stay the fuck away from my family. I'm like, bro, you need to help your brother out.
Right, exactly.
Not push him away like that. Like, you know, this nigga has mental health problems, bro.
And like the world in which he was like living, right? The world building in this, kind of added to that, because throughout the whole entire movie, all he is doing is he's listening to like these the radio, and he's hearing about all this horrible shit that's happening in America. Right. He's driving down the street like everything is an IED. Right, you can't even see like a garbage can without thinking it's going to explode. The movie does that really well, building that sense of like this guy, the Diondre, right? Mm-hmm. He lived so long in a war zone that coming back, everything feels like it's a threat. And like the movie does that really well. The movie is really well crafted. When I say we've seen this movie before, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. Right. But usually it's about, a white man coming back and having to deal with that stuff like that. We never see black people dealing with that.
I think really my thing is, once he hangs out at his brother's house with his brother's friends. When he wigged out after that dude told the story and the dude was texting, and I get why he would wig out, but at that point, if I was his brother, I'd be like, bro, we got to get you some help, because clearly your PTSD shot off when you heard him tell the story and homeboy was texting. You thought he was being disrespectful, but he wasn't being disrespectful. He was just texting. Because people text. Jeff, how many times do I talk to you and you're texting, but you're listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I can do two things at once.
And you do that, and I do that to you. You'll tell me shit, and I'm sitting here texting. Like,
Like this is the world. This is where we're living. But yeah, it's the movie is really well acted.
Yeah.
Like, and it's shot beautifully. I can't knock this movie honestly for anything except for maybe the movie is because you don't get the title sequence. You don't get the credit until 20 minutes into the movie, right? For a movie that's only an hour and a half, I think we spent too much time as a character piece showing Diondre's everyday without, and the story doesn't really kick off until he meets his girlfriend.
Right.
I think we should have spent a little bit more time building up that relationship.
Right, I agree with you, and I got nothing else to say, man.
Yeah, but it really is a good movie. It is an important film, and so when it does eventually hit theaters or wherever it's hitting, I think we need to watch it and celebrate it and talk about this, so we can get the conversation moving past the theater and into our real lives.
Yeah. So we're going to end now with some interviews that I did with some of the cast and the filmmakers of the movie. Please enjoy the interviews.
All right. Peace.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for giving me your time to talk about your movie. And I got to say, I really enjoyed it. This is top to bottom a fantastic film. I just want to go ahead and start off and say, how did y'all approach your characters? And it's specifically, y'all are a family, a close-knit family in this movie, and mental health is serious and something that's really taboo. Can y'all talk about how y'all approached your characters and how specifically they deal with the mental health and the choices that you made towards that?
I can go first then. Initially, I didn't want Diondre to come off as wanting to impose danger on people. I wanted to express that Diondre could show that he wanted to protect. He came from a point of just wanting to protect. So my initial homework was watch news constantly every single day and document what happened in my neighborhood, my city, and my state, and my country. Every single day I journaled. And so every interaction with his family or when he goes into the church, he's going there to protect. And that's what I wanted to get across. And just to build the relationship with my dad, the relationship I had with my brother, and then the relationship I built with Fatima. All those people that were in my bubble, I wanted to protect. And anything that I seen as a threat to that bubble, I had to eliminate from a military standpoint. So that's the point of view where I came across. And I hope I accomplished that. So yeah.
And as a father to Diondre, I came in with the approach that, number one, I've raised this young man. He's gone off, seen things in the world and done things that his father probably hasn't. Now, when he returns, there's some obvious internal struggles that he has. But as his father, I wanted to make sure that I was there as a support system for him. Not really getting down his throat or not trying to be overly invasive into his world, but just letting him know, hey, it's okay. I'm here if you need me, and I being a man at that point, again, I knew he needed some help, but I wanted to do it in a way that he knew it was loving and that it came from a place of just, hey, concern without overly trying to say, hey, come on, talk to me, man. You need to do this or you need to do that, being overbearing to him. And that was something that I lacked, coming up, not having somebody who was there as a father figure for me. And I wanted to make sure that he understood, because of what he was going through, that I was there for him if he needed it. So.
Yeah, and I would say my approach as his brother, Isaiah, my connection, was immediate to the script because of mental health. I was working as a probation officer in Los Angeles for about 10 years. So I seen, the struggles that it has as far as, mental health. And, for me, my approach was, as his brother, I knew him at a deeper level. We were, grew up together. We were, best friends. So when I saw that he came back from war, he was different. My approach was just like, how can I get him back? Where's my brother at? You know what I mean? And so it was easy for me to kind of connect to it because, of the history, that I've, experienced with, viewing mental health and also the war. So, I think that, the connection to the script was amazing.
Well, Vaughn, I want to throw this out to you because one of the scenes that really stayed with me was when, your brother pulls up and sits outside that house and you go up to him and it's just like, look, I love you, but you got to stay the fuck away from my family. And I felt that because you love him, but you're also frustrated. I want to know, Vaughn, as the character, how do you approach that scene? Because, your brother does at that point in time need help. And I want to know, like, do you think he could have done something better to prevent the tragedy that happened or put his family first and really protect his family?
Yeah, so I might be having a little technical difficulties. My apologies. I'm on the road right now. I kind of got the gist of that. But I think in that scene, my approach was definitely, a fine line between, wanting to, protect my family first, but also at the same time, like save my brother. And so I didn't want to, come across like I'm going to come back at him on his level because I knew what that meant for me and my family. Because, he was the type of guy that he would have fought to the death kind of thing. You know what I mean? And so I think my approach was more so like, just trying to like mentally, reach him, on a mental level of like we literally did everything together, bro. Like we were connected deeper than what you're going through right now. So I was just kind of like trying to snap him out of it. Because it was just crazy, you know what I mean? Just the moment. And Vince was amazing. You know what I mean? Vince made it super easy for me to just work off of him and the levels that he came at me at. So I had to, flip it. And so I think, working off of him was amazing.
Vince, I want to know if you did any preparation for your role, because you really did a great job and you never, ever, ever feel any anger or animosity towards your character, because this is a man who's struggling and everybody really recognizes your struggles with your mental health. Did you base that on anybody? Was that anybody you knew, or you just really just dug into the character?
It's a mixture of both. The other half is I embodied this character with my father, with my uncles, with my best friends, with my cousin, especially my cousin. Each personality trait or instance that I seen with my own eyes was shown in Diondre. And I applaud all of them because I called them many days throughout the shooting and before the shooting took place, randomly like asking them questions like, hey man, because I served in Afghanistan and my cousin served in Iraq. So I wanted someone who actually had boots on sand at Diondre's location, fought in the same exact war as Diondre. And he did that. And I salute him because man, he opened himself up to me. It built our relationship even stronger. And he really, really made me see like through Diondre's eyes. And the other side of the coin is the homework I did aside from them was just, like I said, I watched a ton of news and I became Diondre up until the shoot day, like 30 days prior, I was walking around my own neighborhood, doing patrols around my own neighborhood around 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., driving around the city, watching every news outlet in the city and state, what was going on. Like, I was journaling everything. I became a whole different person. So I had to, like, when we wrapped, I threw away my TV. I didn't have a TV for like a couple months. And yeah, man, I had to recover from it. But those two things really helped me create Diondre, the help of others who serve. And this is what this film is for. So I wanted them to have a big say in how this character is on screen, and, you know, sacrificing my own mental health by watching Fox and CNN.
Ooh, God bless, brother. You said Fox. God first. Damn.
So yeah.
Now, to follow up that question, because this was a heavy movie. Once production was done, did you have trouble shaking the character?
Yeah. I had a couple of, like, as an actor, you keep auditioning, and Diondre spilled through a lot of characters because I still haven't shed that skin yet. And, you know, because then again, I served as well. So in a way, I had to focus on my own mental health. And it took about a month or two to shake it. And, but, you know, everything great has a consequence. And I was willing to pay that consequence. I knew that it wasn't going to be detriment to my life and health or mental health. And, you know, thankfully, I shook it within a month. And I'm back to being me.
Good. And do one final question with y'all as well. Before I get to my final question, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask James. I know a lot of older Black men like you who they're not forceful, but you care and you love, you know, your family member and you want to guide them along. And what I love is I know that the mother is sort of like my grandmother, how she's worried. She ain't forceful, but she's like, hey, what do you want to do? Let's push you towards this. Or, hey, I'm kind of concerned about you. And as the father, you kind of just want your son to find his way through life. I wanted to know, did you take any experiences from, you know, just being a relative to people in your role?
Well, a lot of what I brought to the character of James Howell was somewhat of what I lacked in my upbringing. I referenced this earlier. And so I grew up in a house where I grew up with older grandparents. You know, my grandfather was probably 70 something, you know, when I was a kid growing up through the house. And of course I had uncles that were just here and there, but I didn't have anybody who just sat me down, you know, and was just there for me amidst some of the issues I was going through as a teenager and a young man that I could bounce things off of. And so for me, I had to put myself, well, I wanted to make sure that my son in this movie, Diondre, knew that I was there for him. I want him to have what I didn't have, you know, with somebody who's going through different things, you know, and without being overly forceful or, you know, imposing myself, you know, even though I knew, again, he was going through some things, you know, but just to let him know that, hey, I'm here for you if you need me. You're a young man. Now, I know sometimes we as men still want to kind of work things out, but just knowing that we have somebody there means a lot, you know? And so I want to let him know that, hey, your dad is here, son, but I'm going to, you know, give you some outlets if you need it, you know, but I'm not going to force my hand either, you know, because sometimes we need to just take time to find their way. And that's what I tried to impose, you know, with my character, with Diondre.
And so my last question is, every movie's a battle, every movie's a struggle, every movie's hard to make. Is there certain lessons from this that y'all going to take forward in further roles or in front and behind the camera that you're going to use in your career?
My lesson is behind the camera, by making the people priority, because I think that's what we did while shooting this. Like, it didn't feel like we were shooting anything. It just felt like we were hanging out and it happened to be a camera catching it. Especially working with Vaughn, it just felt organic. Working with Kirby, it felt organic. Working with James, it felt like it was just me and my dad in the yard talking. It just, because what we created before the cameras started rolling. we cared about one another. We wanted to get to know one another. We wanted to have fun while doing this. And I think that's one lesson I take from it.
Yeah, man, I'll piggyback off of that actually and just say that, every set is different. And I've been blessed enough to be on a lot of sets to see that. But the best times are when the connection with the actors and the director is seamless, and it's just more so, more so a realization of that I'll keep carrying. But like Vince said, man, it was amazing story. It was an amazing script. Obviously, it's a sad story, but I hope it brings awareness, and that was the goal. Is just to bring awareness to what's going on, and of course with the war and PTSD, and we hope that people receive that. But yeah, it was an amazing time, and it was an honor to work with Bryant, with James, Kirby, and Tari, and of course Vince.
And from my point of view, I think that my takeaway was that mental health is very real. That's something that, growing up as a young Black man in the Black community, you didn't address often at all. It was just tossed to the side. Oh, no, you better deal with it. You better act right. But it's very real. And so when we see these things now, we need to not be so dismissive. When we see things, act on it, be more engaging with your children, to make sure that they're not dealing with something like this, whether or not it's from them or somebody that they may know. But being more proactive, being open, and searching for those avenues, those platforms that could offer some assistance. So absolutely.
All right, then. Well, thank you guys for your time. Congratulations on the movie. I can't wait to keep spreading the word around. This is a really important and very great movie. All y'all killed it, honestly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate your time, brother.
Cool. Brandon, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch the film, to put your time into watching it, and in your review. I can't tell you how much, again, that means, because, again, we work on these things for a long time. We're not coming from a big studio, and to know that, you invested time in watching it, took it seriously, and gave us those kind words. Really appreciate that.
I appreciate that, bro. Like, me and Jeff, we're filmmakers in our own right to a certain extent. And like, first and foremost, to start off this interview, I want to say thank you for making a movie like this. One thing as a Black man myself that I appreciate is mental health. And that's one of the things I loved about this movie is, Brian, the way you tackle mental health and especially how it's handled in this movie, how we need to really address it head on. What inspired this? This is a beautiful film, first and foremost. And I want to know what exactly inspired you to tell this story, this very important story, by the way.
Thanks so much again for those words and mental health. And obviously, as a Black man, the genesis of this story goes back to, I'm about to graduate from UCLA looking for a thesis, and I wanted to tell a slice of life story of Black life that showed us in all of who we are. The middle class Black family that's largely invisible on screen. Like, we have dreams, aspirations, and you, like film blurs. I was a blur before it became popular, just like I'm sure you were. Like, the idea that we could love sci-fi and these other things in spaces where we're not represented. And so I'm hopefully on that journey to tell those stories. But first and foremost, I wanted to tell a slice of life story that represented us and who we were. And it's just unfortunate in the sense that I had this friend that went through this situation. So this is based on true events. And so I knew this guy as a kid, prior to signing up. And it got to a point where I was looking at potentially right around the time September 11th happened. My father, who is a lefty liberal, we're from New York originally. And he was like, he saw the World Trade Center go down. And he was like, look, if you have to sign up, go ahead and do that. And so there was some voices to say sign up. I didn't. I decided to go back to school and finish, but my friend went to serve. And who he was before and after was two completely different people. And so when I heard about what happened, I couldn't believe it. And so I started to research and look into what happened. And that just led to more things. You were just peeling back the layers of the onion to try to figure out what happened. And so what I ended up doing was I wanted to combine this slice of life where nobody's a drug dealer, nobody's addicted to drugs, nobody is a gang member. We're trying to contribute to society, but this unfortunate thing happens. And so that's kind of the genesis of everything. And to try to do it in an honest way, not to glorify anything, not to play things up for the drama aspect of it, but to try to keep it grounded and real,
I love, first and foremost, to follow up the realness of the movie, as you just said. I want to know specifically, because the one thing I love about this is the character, the mother. She's forceful, but she's loving. And I know that type of love. That's like my grandmother. I want to know, was that based on your actual mother or an actual relative that you had known?
It's a composite of things. Like you said, my mother is she can be overbearing a little time at times, as mothers are. That's their love language. But then also the real mother here, I actually had to scale back. Like we do have some scenes that go. I think that the scenes that showed love that went overboard in terms of almost creating a caricature, I had to pull back on, because that's what I didn't want to do, to create a caricature of the angry Black woman or the Black mom. And so I think first and foremost, Tara gave an incredible performance. And in her performance, again, she's like Superwoman. She came in, she lifted up scenes. I wish you guys had a chance to talk with her. Hopefully we can arrange something, but she's just an incredible talent. But she gave me ranges of performances, because that's what I like to do. I don't like to do one take the same way multiple times. It's like, once we get that, let's dial it up, let's dial up the intensity and let's get multiple levels, so that in post, I can play with the levels. So if a scene doesn't have enough energy, I can select a take that has a lot of energy. If it has too much, I can dial it back to an earlier one. And so Tara was able to give those performances. And so over time, in the edit, we were just able to kind of shape it so that she wasn't a caricature. She was a real mom concerned about her son, trying to find answers to a problem that she didn't quite understand, and so that's what I just wanted to do, is to try to give an honest portrayal of that Black mother, that Black mother's love.
Well, to follow up that, because that's such a beautiful answer, and thank you for that. It sounds like you're also a very generous director. Do you approach your actors, sit down before the scene and say, before I give you any direction, I want to know what you're thinking? Because I know, like, me personally and me, Jeff, like, we've worked on projects where we would do that. Before we give direction, I would ask my actor, say, hey, what are you thinking in this moment? And how do you think the character would approach this?
I think that's the only way to do it, to be honest. I feel like, and that's the way I like to do it with all of my department, all the entire team. Number one, I don't, I'm new to writing, I'm relatively new to writing. And so I rely on the actors to take the words on the page and just give them life. And I feel like, I'm not, one of these famous top tier directors. And so the only reason why people are a part of this is because they want to be. And so for me, it's like, how do I sweeten the pot? And there's nothing like that collaborative energy, and like you said, you do it. It's like, it just feels so good. You write an idea for something and then the actor comes and it's like, oh, I was thinking this, this, and this. Like, that's much better than anything I could have thought of. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's something that, again, we were super fortunate. And for me, it starts during the table read. So like, once you first do the table read, a scene doesn't play the way you think it should play, then you think about it and then you have a conversation with the actors. Hey, how can we change this to get to what we feel it should be? And then it continues on set. And like I said, I like to do it with all the department heads, the collaborators, Selena, Vito, and Karam, all the way through, everybody.
Well, to speak on that collaboration, I do wanted to, because I wanted to get to this, so I'm glad this is a great segue for this question. I want to know, because I personally love the look of the movie and how naturalistic the light is. I want to know what conversations you had with your cinematographer, especially if I want to know, because I can't tell, because this is how good it looks. Was that natural lighting, or did you guys actually do use house lights and studio lights?
I'll let Vito speak to that. She's right.
Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for this question, and thank you for your comment on this last one. Yeah, so we had a lot of conversation about every scene, specifically, a very lengthy conversation for a really long time. And there is vocabularies and grammars that we've built that we over prepared at the design of the look of the film, but it was an over preparation that allowed for nuances with improvisation, so that the performances had the space they needed, and Brian had the space he needed to work with the performance in a natural way, in an organic way. And part of the aesthetic that we were going for is very much verite inspired. So long shots are designed, but they are modified and adapted depending on location, performance, blocking, feeling, the specificity of the scene that's discussed in a certain way before, and then on set it's discussed in another way. And the naturalistic look of the lighting, we didn't have too much lighting. We have very little resources, but we did have some. So it's like a mix between it's natural, but with an extension of the natural made with studio. And we worked with what location provided us and with what we had available, and basically try to amplify and enrich it and embellish it and keep it natural, but also a little bit expressionistic.
That's a beautiful answer. I love that you guys did use what another cinematographer would call natural lighting plus, as they call it. How the impressionistic look, which I love that you said that. Were there any influences that you guys pulled from other places for the look of this film?
Yeah, I think we had quite a few references that now I can't even think of.
Yeah, for me, I'm a little bit more of a film buff, and Vito is a film buff and an art buff in general, cinematography, photography. But speaking about photography, you have to go back to Gordon Parks. Nobody's photographed African Americans better than Gordon Parks. And then we've been fortunate in recent days to have beautiful cinematography in films, from Barry Jenkins and others. But I would go back to, films like Ballast. Vito has a long list of films. And the thing is, we did have a lot of time to prep. So we were originally going to shoot in 2020, but then the world went on pause. And so during all of 2020, we basically had time to go through every scene. And so that's why we did have so many different references until we did filter it down to what we thought would work best.
I would say we had a lot of different references for specific different things. Like Gordon Parks, I think a lot of it comes from portraiture. But then we had also Barry Jenkins' portraiture that is a little bit more elevated and a little bit more stylized. But then we also had many other references in terms of camera movement and handheld style that comes from some other filmmaker that I used as Lice Rohrwacher, an Italian filmmaker. So it's a mix and a blend of different specific and nuances from different things that we kind of put together and did a collage.
Awesome. My final question for everybody, and this is a question I love to ask everybody. Making movies is hard. I know firsthand it's hard, and you guys made a beautiful, touching movie that I can't wait to talk about more. What did you guys learn on this film that you're going to take on other projects going forward?
I mean, I can start. I want to make sure everybody gets time, but for me, the like you said, making movies is hard. I listened to that podcast too, but the team, the people you surround yourself with, that's the most important thing. You could probably have the best script, but if you get an actor who's not willing to work with you and collaborate with you, you're done. We were extremely lucky. Again, the entirety, everybody that you see here, Karam is actually from Iraq. And so he has a personal connection to the story. Selena is someone I met through UCLA, and, you know, she jumped on board and took everything, you know, without being paid. and Vito, again, is like, you know, one of my longest collaborators as well. It's like the team is the most important thing. We got super lucky with Vince. The other thing, I didn't realize at the time, when you are making a feature film and you have a lead that's in almost every scene, if they have a bad attitude, you are done. Vince was on set every day ahead of call. He stayed as long as he needed to stay. If I asked him to give us another take, he would do it with no hesitation. He was the epitome of professionalism. And I think I was spoiled by that. I hope to, of course, work with him again in the future. And again, that goes through all the actors, but everyone takes their cues from the lead. I think even more so than the director, I think it's the lead actor. If the lead actor doesn't respect the director, I think you're kind of in trouble, So again, the fact that he brought that professionalism and then others look to him. And again, Tara is another super person, came on and just killed it, Vaughn, everybody. So the people, I mean, it's a cliche answer, but that's the most important thing. It's like you have to hire your department heads the way you would your lead actor. You have to put that much time into every department the way you would, your longest and most trusted collaborator.
Yeah, so to chime in on that, we had extensive interview with, beside like everyone who's here that was already on board, but like with other department head, we had so many interviews, we had so many talk. And I would say like everyone who was attached to it, everyone who came on board, it's a low budget movie. So it's not like you're getting like rich for it. And everyone is doing it from like coming from love and passion. And that's what Brian was saying, the team, because everyone is doing it because they believe in it. Everyone is really putting so much effort to it. And even though it was so hard, because we had a long day and not too much break, and it was so hot too. It was a fun set. Everyone was having fun. Everyone was joking, and we were just like playing around on set, even though it's a very heavy topic. And then when we start filming, everyone gets, serious. And also, like the support from the community, because we got location. We shot in real location, most of them for free or very low price, and family, friend support. Yeah. And even what Vito was saying, we didn't have too much equipment, but all those equipment, we got free equipment from Ari, Cinelis, Illumination Dynamic. They like donated their equipment for the film. We couldn't have done it otherwise. It was so important to have all the support. I guess like to sum it up, it's like people need to believe in it. And that's what's most important for making the film happen.
Awesome. I just want to thank you guys for your time. Thank you for letting me watch your film. Congratulations. Please don't let this die. Like, put it out there as much as possible. And I'm going to talk about it as much as I possibly can. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you so
We're the
much.
Film Blurs. I'm Brandon Norwood, and I'm the motherfucking protagonist.
I'm the protagonist.
I'm Jeff Stewart, a.k.a. He Who Remains.
Don't come at us. It's just fucking movies.
You've been listening to the Film Blurs podcast.
Man, I just love what you guys do, man.
I never miss an episode. It's the best. It's my favorite podcast.
Follow Jeff on IG on MindFireXL and Brandon on Twitter at BJN Tweets.